I'm Wesley Foreman, and you're watching Cooking for the Yum of It. Today, we are going to be preparing a Navarin Printanier, which is a fancy way of saying lamb stew with spring vegetables. Let's get started. Now, the original recipe is serves 8, but I'm cutting the amount of ingredients in half because I'm only going to be preparing this to serve about 4. One good thing you'll like about this is that it is a slow cooker recipe, which means you can set it, forget it, and get other things done while your stew is cooking. So our first ingredient, we're going to need 3 medium waxy potatoes such as these. These are Yukon Gold. We're going to peel our potatoes. And once that's done, we're going to slice our potatoes, which is one of the reasons I really like this measured out cutting board. You can get everything precisely how you want it. And then after you dice them, this is a good size I think, we put our potatoes in the slow cooker. Then we're going to take 2 medium carrots, and then we peel the carrots. I think I already said that. And that one out of the way. Take off the 2 little nips on both ends. And then, making sure we're in camera range, I like to cut on the bias in half-inch segments, more or less half-inch. Oh, sorry about that. Yep, still in range. Sometimes little bits of carrot and other vegetables and ingredients try to get away, but we're cleverer than them. Okay, and then of course, once that's done, the carrots go into the crock pot. Now we bring in a large white onion. Now, I should point out, or I should mention, that it's okay to change ingredients around a bit, even if you're cooking from a Julia Child cookbook. Because sometimes you can't get the ingredients you want, and you either have to decide, am I not going to make this, or am I going to add a few different ingredients, although basically the same ingredients. Now, instead of these large white onions you see here, I was supposed to be using, it was about 16 or so frozen pearl onions, but I wasn't able to find those at the grocery store, so I'm going to be using the large white onion. I'm going to be actually using about 2 of them, because I like onions, they give a good flavor. And the only thing I don't care for is the way they make me cry. So first we take our onion, and we slice it in half. You'll see why. Now, when you're slicing an onion, you don't want to go all the way through if you want it diced. You go near the end, and so you can leave a little bit at the back to keep it together. This is a little thing I learned from watching one of Julia Child's episodes on YouTube. And then once you've done that, you slice this way a little bit, a few levels, and then wonderfully diced onions, which go into the pot. Now, if you think I'm going to waste the bit here, very much mistaken. I do not waste food. So you take a larger knife and you just sort of dice it all up. And you can add that as well. Try not to waste a single speck of food. My grandparents, who both grew up during the Depression, taught me that. Waste not, want not. Food is food, and food is sacred. And I just decided on the spur of the moment that I'm not going to use this onion in the stew, because I think the one onion I've used already is more than enough. So I'm going to set this aside for a future use and move on to our next ingredient, the lovely, lovely turnip. And as you're probably guessing, first I've got to peel this thing. Now that the turnip is peeled, first we slice it in half, and then we want bigger chunks of turnip. So what we're going to do with that is go to the larger squares here on my cutting board. And as I did with the potatoes, there you have it. The large dice, 3/4 inch turnip. Now, the single most expensive part of this dish is the lamb. Now I tried this last week when it sorry, it's in trouble getting this open. I tried making this last week with beef to see if it would work, because I didn't want to say that you could always use beef if it didn't taste good, but it did. So if you don't want to use lamb, or you can't afford it, there's no shame in using less expensive ingredients. Feel free to use beef, maybe even pork would work. I don't know. If any of you try it with pork, please let me know. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is separate our chunks of lamb onto our paper towel here, because a very important step is to dry the meat. If you don't dry the meat, it will not brown properly. So, anyway, that's that part. Maybe open up the other one. Excuse me here. Actually, I'm going to look later in the year, April and May, to see if lamb is less expensive then. I checked, and lamb is, in the United States, is in season, for lack of a better term, through April and May. So it may be actually less expensive then. And I have a neighbor upstairs who works at a sheep ranch, or sheep farm, I don't know what you call it, who said he can supply me with lamb at very little to no cost. So that's also an alternative, but we'll just have to see how things go. The lambs usually aren't, I don't know about the United States, but I've read books about how in England, for example, the sheep start giving birth to their lambs, or it's called the lambing season, in February. So March and April would make pretty good sense as far as when you could start expecting lamb to be more abundant and less expensive in your local supermarket. Okay, sometimes, yeah, sometimes it'll stick to the paper towel, but it's easy to pull off, so don't worry about that. Okay. Now we're going to take some more because we want very dry, almost desert-like lamb. Well, not desert-like. Now let's flip this over. Oop. See how it just sort of sticks? And we just peel it off. We don't let the lamb get the better of us. Mary may have had a little lamb, but I'm going to cook with a lot of it here. Okay. Now, we're going to take 1/4 cup of flour. Move that over here. And we're going to add to that 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And now, one of the things I'm trying to do is one of my roommates recently had a health scare and had to get a heart transplant. I hope he doesn't mind my mentioning that. So he can have, we have to take so instead of using regular salt, this is a new experiment for me. I'm going to be using something called no salt salt, sodium-free salt. It's an alternative. And I'm going to take 1/2 teaspoon of that. I'm going to mix that all together. And then, let me see if I can get this into a better angle. Okay. We're going to put our lamb in the bag of our flour, salt, and pepper. Get all of that in there. It'll all fit. Don't worry. A vegan dish, this is definitely not. Okay. I'll move this over here because we're going to need it in a second. We zip our Ziploc bag closed, and then it's like a shake and bake. We just shake that all around to get our lamb as evenly coated as we can. Now, we take our little colander here and we empty our lamb into the colander and we shake off the excess of, I mean, look at all that. We shake off the excess flour and then we're ready to go on to our next step. What we're going to do now is bring our pan here to a medium heat and add 2 tablespoons of our extra virgin olive oil. That's a personal preference on my side. If you want to use slutty olive oil, please feel free. Now, you don't want to put the olive oil away because one of the things you'll know if you do any kind of cooking or if you've watched any of my other videos is that the, let's get this all coated here, is that the oil will evaporate as the food is cooking. So you want to set that aside in case you need to add any more olive oil later. And you'll know it's ready to cook temperature-wise. What we do here, the trick my grandma taught me, you add a couple of drops of water, and when the water, you hear that popping sound, and you don't want to stand too close. Once the water that you've added, a couple of little drops, pop, then you'll know it's ready to add the, you can add your meat. So, let's just jump ahead to right after it's popped. Okay, it's just getting ready. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's just about ready to pop. There's a few pops there. And I can see one bubble getting ready. Yeah, there it goes. Now we may need to turn on our fan, so if you can't hear me, I apologize for that. Hopefully you will. Now, the deal with, let me set my timer here. Okay. What I like to do is, you don't want to brown it you don't want to cook it completely, you just want to brown the meat. And the system I have, which is kind of annoying to get everything ready, and I should have done this sooner, is I like to brown it for 30 seconds on each side, but that was when I was using beef. The lamb is a bit smaller, so I'm going to go with 20 seconds on each side. And you don't want to add too much that you don't want to crowd your meat. So, what we're going to do is you have to do this in batches. However big your pan is. It's a little obsessive compulsive pattern I like to do. And then after 20 seconds we flip it over. 20 seconds after that we put our meat into the slow cooker with our vegetables. Okay. And once that's done, for another 20 seconds, it goes into the slow cooker. I'm not going to make you watch me brown all of the meat, so as soon as this batch is done and I get to the final batch, we'll just jump ahead and cut that part out. So, let's jump ahead. Okay, I didn't show you this earlier, but I did have to add a little bit more olive oil. So we're almost done, and we'll skip ahead again. Okay, now the meat has been completely browned. We're going to pour off the oil. Don't worry about the sound. Now we're going to add, this is 1/4 cup of Jim Beam and 2 3/4 cups of low sodium chicken broth. What did I do with my spoon? Ah, here we go. Now we're going to scrape off the brown bits from the bottom. Those are little jewels of flavor. This is another adaptation of mine. The Jim Beam is something I decided to add. And it worked really well last week when I did it with this stew with beef. So it'll be quite interesting to see how it works with lamb. Now I'm we also, at this point, we're going to add 1 can, about 6 ounces, of tomato paste. Bring our liquid to a high simmer, very low boil, as we dissolve our tomato paste in the liquid here. I don't know if you can tell, some of the brown bits have floated to the surface. There's a special implement for that. I'd like to get one day, but right now I'm going to have to just make do with my wooden spoons. I'm trying to not spend too much money. There's all sorts of things I'd love to do if I had the chance. One would be to have a house or a condominium of my own with a stove that doesn't face a wall when I'm not facing a wall when I cook, but instead facing outward. That way you could all see my handsome face as I'm cooking. Okay. So we're going to let that come to a very high simmer or a very low boil, whatever you want to call it. And it's just about there. So let me get some other things into position and we can move on. Okay, now we're going to add 3 cloves of minced garlic. And I had this earlier. Okay, 1 second. And 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. Stir this around, get it all mixed together. Turn off our heat at this point. And now we pour, sorry, let me get my oven mitt for that because the handle is still quite warm. I should have anticipated that. We pour our liquid over everything. Try to scrape a few more of the brown bits and other items out. And now we ask ourselves, Wesley, why did we not get all of our ingredients lined up like little soldiers, the way Honey Garrett did? And we promised to make sure we do it correctly the next time. So give me a second. Okay, we add 1 bay leaf. We cover our slow cooker. And we plug it in. I'm going to set this on manual to cook at low temperature for about 6 hours. Although we will be coming back later in the process to add our final ingredient, which is some peas. Peas go in this. But until then, everything is ready and we just have to wait. See you soon. Okay, it's been about 2.5 hours so far. This smells incredible, and I really can't wait until it's done. I won't know until it is, but I'm pretty sure it worked, like I said, it worked well before when I used beef. This could probably also work with pork, stew meat as well, but we'll have to see if my adaptations will actually bear fruit. Oh, and to go with it, I also made a fresh batch of my focaccia bread. Oh, it smells, everything just smells so wonderful. Okay, now we're in the home stretch. At this stage, we add our partially thawed green peas. We stir that into our stew. I'll take this out while I stir. Oh, this is... if you could be here, you would love this smell as much as I do, this scent as much as I do. And just look how thick and delicious that gravy looks. It's just... oh, sometimes I amaze even myself. Okay, this is the last 30 minutes, and then we should be done. And now we have finished making our delicious, well, actually we're not completely finished. First we've got to remove the bay leaf, and then we'll stir this a bit. So I jumped ahead, sorry about that. I'm going to take a little taste. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of salt, or actually salt substitute. You never want to add, we're going to start with just half a teaspoon here. You never want to add too much when you're adjusting the seasoning, because you can always add more, but it's impossible to take out any if you add too much. Oh my. This looks and smells so good. Excuse me. Sorry, it's very hot. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Like I said, always easy to add more, but impossible to take out once you've added it. And of course, this part depends a lot on your personal taste. Some people like things saltier, others don't. Everyone's different, and that's okay. Yeah, that is just about it. So let me just double check one more time. Yeah, that's fine. So, I'm going to take one lovely bowl of Navarin Printanier made with lamb. As I mentioned before, oh, don't worry, nothing broke. Anyway, as I was saying, another thing you can always, if you can't find lamb, you don't like lamb, or you find it too expensive, as I will in most cases, you can always use pork, you can use beef. Both, I think, would work well with this. I've made it before with beef and now with lamb, so if I make this again the next time, it will be with pork, just so I can make sure about all of the different flavors. So, now we come to my favorite part of every episode, the eating. Okay, let's get a little bit of lamb here. Oh, that is good. It's melting in my mouth like it's warm butter on a hot summer day. It's just so tender. And the vegetables, ooh, still a little hot. Again, excellent, if I do say so myself. And now let's see how the focaccia bread works as a dipping into the lovely, almost gravy-like sauce of the stew. Mmm. 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 That is truly amazing. So anyway, there you have it. Navarin Printanier, made with lamb. Although, again, like I said, next time I make this, I've already made it with beef, so next time I'll make it with pork. It's delicious. It smells fantastic. So I recommend you I really do. I think you should try making this yourself. It's really, really good. So I am Wesley Foreman. You've been watching Cooking for the Yum of It. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Don't be afraid to like or comment below. And as always, remember, eat and enjoy.